We're up to 32 expertise legendaries, and Jadwiga is the latest that I've added to my collection. In this video, we're going to walk through what I think are some of the very best talents and uses for this cavalry commander, and yeah, she's solid. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and this video has been sponsored by the makers of Rise of Kingdoms. Today we get to talk about Jadwiga, and although I really wanted to show testing, because Ark League is, top 32, less than a week away, I can't show detailed reports from garrisons and rallies and all of the different things you might use this commander for. But with that said, there are some really important uses for this commander. There's some things we can share with you about what you should expect if you're going to work on this commander, who should work on this commander, that will set you up for success and hopefully steer you in the right direction. So let's get things started by clarifying that, in my opinion, this commander should be maxed or focused on primarily by two types of players. The first group of players that should work on this commander are Garrison players, players that are very interested in being a Garrison captain, and that really should be primarily players that are higher in VIP, that obviously have maxed all their research, that sort of stuff, okay? The other group of players that should be focused on Jadwiga is Ark Carriers, and that is because she gives a cool 15% march speed with the mobility tree and the cavalry tree, and that is an unusual combination to have mobility and 15% march speed from skills. That's not something you can get other places. Double C has only 10%. So Jadwiga has a potential role as an Ark Carrier that is very, very strong. Double C primary, by the way, offers you, again, only 10% march speed bonus, and you're going to lose some defense along the way as well. Now, you may be wondering, Chisgule, why are you not necessarily recommending Jadwiga for field fighting? And here's why. I don't really think that the cavalry mobility tree combo is amazing for a primary commander. And the thing that you're really missing is a great way to generate rage. In fact, she'll be probably better off with almost any other situation where she's going to be the secondary commander to a commander that will generate lots of rage. We're used to the skill tree generating lots of rage. We're used to the support tree generating lots of rage from Rejuvenate. Even in, you take a commander like YSS, okay? He's got leadership and he's got defense. And the thing is, you get 6 rage per second from Burning Blood. You can get 6 rage per second from Hidden Wrath. And if you're garrisoning with the dude, right? You can get another, 6 rage per second if you're defending your city. That doesn't work if you're defending an Ark of Osiris. But, 12 rage per second is kind of a big deal, and that's per target hitting you. We're used to having commanders as the primary that have better ways to generate rage. So that makes me very nervous about using Jadwiga as a primary in the open field. With that said, there is something about Jadwiga that does actually steer you toward using her as a primary after all, and that is the fact that she will give you a 20% damage boost with her active skill. This is important because if you have a high skill damage secondary, that means that they're going to do 20% more skill damage when they fire off their active skill, because she's boosting all damage by 20%. It's a pretty big deal to be boosting the skill damage of your next commander by, 20%. So I worry about Jadwiga primary because she can't generate lots of rage. She has skills to help with that, but those help if she's the secondary commander as well. Whenever she takes skill damage, she's going to generate more rage. So I don't think most players should work on this commander for field. She does not have area of effect damage, which I think is really important. She does have hasty departure. So if what you really want to focus on is like KVK seasons 1 through 3 and maneuvering, except you can't get her in that time frame anyways. So I think most players probably should not be thinking about Jadwiga. But if you were going to make her a primary, what would those talents look like? If you were to use her as a primary for Garrison, there's not really a lot of choices here. In fact, there are very few choices at all with these talent points. I don't think this commander is an exceptional commander for defending your city because she's offering a bunch of stats to Cavs. I think YSS and Theo, I mean, they really take the crown for city defense, and I don't think it's all that close either. So if you're going to be using Jadwiga for defending in Ark of Osiris or a flag, and I think she can be a fine primary in those contexts, I think that you've really got to go and get Kingsguard. It gives a bunch of stats. The points along the way are suboptimal, fully offset, however, by the fact that Kingsguard is really good. The only mobility points that I think are really compelling is Saving Cross. Reduce your skill damage taken by 9%. I mean, you got to be tanky to be a Garrison captain, so yeah, let's reduce the skill damage taken. I don't think with this commander you were too worried about whether or not Attila Takeda is going to beat you anyways. At this point, I feel like the meta is pretty firmly shifted away from Attila Takeda being a meta rally. I know. Can you believe we're uttering those words? In the cavalry tree, you've got to get the Rage Gen from Undying Fury. This is a must pick up. It's really, in my eyes, not an optional talent. Yes, there's probably some testing you could do to see just how much this influences the outcome of the fight. I haven't done it. However, generating 9 rage a second is pretty important. That comes from her normal attacks. Okay? We've skipped Rallying Cry, the very top of the cavalry tree, and you could make an argument that perhaps the points should be there and that the 15% damage for the first 10 seconds of the fight, in some contexts, like in Ark of Osiris, could be a difference maker. But if you think fights are going to run long, you're going to get reinforcements, I think that Rallying Cry is probably not where you'd want to be. Now, the next build I want to show you is an Ark Carrying build. And I'm comfortable sharing these builds because there just aren't that many variations of these builds to be using. There is a bunch of March speed available to you in the mobility tree, and I think you've got to go and get it. There's also March speed points that you've got to get in the Cav tree. They're up top over here, they're over here, and on the right-hand side of the tree. I was already so far into that Cav tree that I figured, well, I may as well reduce my skill damage taken if I'm carrying the Ark by 12%. I'm already here. May as well reduce my damage taken, right? May as well make myself a little bit viable in the field for some battling. And the thing that is really debatable is whether or not you get time management. And I called this an Ark breakout build because if you get the Ark and they're not hitting you, you're going to go faster. If they start hitting you, you're probably going to get wrecked because instead of being 10% faster, you're going to be 10% slower when you're in combat. So that's a 20% March speed swing against your favor. So when you're out of combat, you go faster, but when you're in combat, it's really going to slow you down quite a bit. The final build that I thought I'd prepare is if you are going to use her in the field and you're going to use her as a primary commander and you want to fight, like what would I recommend? And I think you've got to go all in on the cavalry tree. You've got to go all in on getting Undying Fury. From here, I went into the mobility tree and I figured you've got to just get Hasty Departure, right? I mean, if you're going to use this commander in the field, you're probably micromanaging them, taking advantage of those Hasty Departure talents to go where you want to go and avoid being hit when you don't want to be hit. From there, I picked up 6% extra March speed from Lightning Charge. If we're going all in on being fast, let's go all in on that plan. To that end, I also picked up another 6% from the mobility tree. Along the way, you reduce your skill damage taken. That's just generally really exceptional as a talent. And also grants a 10% chance to decrease the march speed of the target by 15%. So if somebody tries to run away from you, you can slow them. You could also try to slow somebody and then run away from them if you see the march speed down arrow show up as a debuff on top of them, right? If you're stuck in a fight that you want to get away from, that's something you could do. Or you could, wait in the fight until you're below 50%, take advantage of the charge talents, hope that you've maybe got a vortex slow and then try to get away. Bunch of ways to think about that, but you're going over here to get the march speed anyways, so that's what you get along the way. There's a little bit of flex in this build with, getting a little bit more march speed when you're being attacked, getting a little bit of march speed when you're attacking somebody. You could play around with that a little bit, but for the most part, because she's got the Garrison tree and there's really no points you want to put in the Garrison tree for open field at all. Not even march speed. There's not even some march speed near the front of this that you can take advantage of. I think these are the trees that you're left with. So overall, would I recommend this commander to most players? I don't think so. She's got the march speed that I'd like to see for an open field commander, but a lot of what she's trying to do is honestly Garrison and specifically rally related. And for those of you that have made it this far into the video, there is one thing from testing that I will share with you that is important to share, which is that, I was really hoping that when this said, when the active skill is used, damage taken is reduced by 10% for 4 seconds, I had hoped this would work with the primary and the secondary commander. In the testing that I was doing, that was not the case. So that only triggers, it looks like, from her active skill. Again, I was hoping, in a perfect world, you'd be getting a cool 6 seconds, potentially, of reducing the skill damage taken by 10%. It's really only the 4 seconds because it's just tied to her active skill. And they do mean when the active skill. They may as well say when Jadwiga's active skill is used. That's really what they mean. And because it was a little ambiguous, I was hoping it would do, a little more. This, by the way, is why I would recommend strongly that if you're using her in the field for fighting, for example, you pair her with a commander that generates ridiculous amounts of rage. Someone like Saladin, who is tanky, generates rage from the support tree, is a really great choice. The new commander XY might even be a kind of interesting choice here because he's got a lower rage requirement, okay, by 100. So it's 900 total instead of 1,000, and he reduces the rage by another 50. So I think that's also an interesting pair, and I think people should be looking at that potentially, because not only is Jadwiga going to generate rage, and she's going to benefit tremendously by having that reduced rage requirement, but her active skill is boosting all damage for 3 seconds. So the faster you fire off that active skill, the more percentage of your damage will be boosted, right? Because, your active skill cycle, if it's only like 5 seconds instead of 10 seconds, that would mean that 3 of your 5 seconds, you've got this buff running, right? Every 5 seconds, 3 of them you have the buff. That'd be an amazing skill cycle, okay? So I'm getting maybe a little carried away, as opposed to 3 of every 10 turns being covered by this buff. The same is true for this right over here. So much of what she's doing is tied to the frequency with which she uses the active skill that I think it is pretty important to really tie her up, pair her up with a rage engine. So a commander like Khan generates a lot of rage, has a reduced rage cost. Whew. I mean, she's going to reduce the damage taken for a majority of the time you're in combat, which is really powerful. She's going to have your damage boosted for a majority of time you're in combat. That is very powerful. For those reasons, I think that she's stronger as a secondary to a rage-generating commander, in case that wasn't clear. Now, as soon as we've done our Ark match this weekend, which should be really exciting, by the way, we're going to be battling against C9N, our former allies. I believe they've made it to the top 16 every single Ark League so far. So this is going to be a tough fight for sure. And as soon as the first round of the playoffs have happened for the top 32, I'm going to assume at that point we probably can start to release some of the testing that we've done. So if you want to see all the good stuff with our testing, consider subscribing for those Rise of Kingdoms videos designed to help you get value and smash your enemies. It's rare that I can't make content about something because it might give or bestow a competitive advantage to us or sacrifice it and give it to an enemy. So we got to keep some of this information close to the vest for now. So again, subscribe so you don't miss when that video does go live. And until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.